So I'm going to present very quickly. I am going to try very hard to stay within 5 minutes here about some stuff we've been working on with Carlene Chase and others at the University of Florida for about the last 6 or 7 years. And this deals with two aspects of our work on this project, the PSA project: grower field assessments and grower think tanks. So the objective of our work on this has always been to improve the quality of the biological research. In fact, I describe myself as a social scientist in service of biological science. So that's really where we head on things, is to try to make that research for the biological scientists better. And by better, we mean that we can get better, more reliable answers quicker, and answers that are more amenable to adoption by growers. So that's sort of where this is coming from, is to try to push that process of discovery along much more rapidly. Next slide, please. So we provide, what these grower field assessments do is that they provide biological scientists with specific recommendations to support and enhance their research during the life of a given project. So that's an important thing, because this focuses on this project right now. We want to reduce the probability that we're going to spend scarce resources on potential solutions that are of limited interest to farmers for whatever reason. And we do want to accelerate the discovery and the delivery of solutions that farmers are more likely to be able to adopt and also be willing to adopt. So that's sort of where all of the grower assessment work heads. Next slide, please. So I'm going to spend a little time on the procedures. It's a 3-step process, and it takes about a minimum of 2 hours, to be quite honest, often more like 3 hours to do. So part one of it, and this is done by relatively small groups of farmers. We also do sessions for other kinds of actors in the adoption process, including extension agents, certified crop consultants, folks from industry who develop the new materials that we use. We keep those two separate because we find that they make different recommendations. So the first step of this is that we have field plots set up, usually on a research station, easier to do it there. And those are not labeled. And the point of not labeling those plots is that we do not want people's prior experience with, say, a specific cover crop or a specific nitrogen management regime. We do not want that to influence their direct observations of the field plots. So, and we also ask people not to talk to each other. Each person is assigned a block, and they look at the plots within that box. They do know what the treatments are, they just don't know which one is in which plot. And they score that instrument. They score things like cover crop vigor, weediness in the cover crops, how full of the density of the cover crops, all sorts of things like that, or it could be the main crop traits. So they score that, they score those kinds of traits on an ordinal score, but we also have space there where they write their individual comments, and we ask people, okay, now that you made your score, kind of write notes to yourself about why you thought why you gave it that score. After that, we retire to someplace else where people can sit down and be comfortable, usually inside a building. And we have a facilitated discussion among the participants where they try to identify and come to some consensus about the best treatments that they observed, and by the way, the worst as well. We asked them to do both, which were the best, which were the worst. And the most important traits of those particular plots that made them say, well, this is a really high performing good plot to me, and this one is a really bad performing poor plot. So that's a facilitated discussion among the producers or the other folks, among the participants, where the only role of the facilitator really is to kind of keep it on track and moving forward. And we do use some things like going up and putting red, green dots on, you know, flip charts where people score the treatments and so on. So it takes some advanced prep. The idea is ultimately during that for them to come up with group comments. So they make first their initial comments are individual, but then in the group discussion, they come up with a common set of factors that they've identified that really make them think treatments are good or bad. And this is the point at which typically they learn exactly what treatment was in which plot. So now they can hook their comments about the traits that are important to the actual treatment on the given plots. And then the last step is the really hard one, but it is the critical one. We try to lead, well, it's just critical to get done. You got to get it done, is to lead the group through a consensus process. Because really what we don't want to have a long laundry list of things that we could do differently in our work. So what we want to do is to get the group to a point where they can suggest one thing to add to our protocols. That could be a treatment, it could be some sort of data to collect. For example, one we've received quite often is labor costs. They would like more on labor costs. We asked them to identify something we could eliminate without hurting anything from their perspective, something that would not reduce the quality of the research or the importance of the findings. And then we asked them to please identify the thing in this whole protocol that we're doing that you think we really have to make sure we keep. It's absolutely critical from your perspective to the data we are collecting and to the information we will provide you with. So this is a process that involves then, and this is critical, the researchers involved have got to be willing to involve farmers and other stakeholders in the design process. Because this is not just asking opinions for the future. If one of these groups says, we really want you to add something else, we need to do that. We need to live up to our part of the deal. That's happened before. Dr. Chase can comment on that. When growers suggested that we had a cover crop mixture on one of our early cover crop research, and we did that. And it was a quite positive outcome from that. Next slide, please. So here are the recommendations. So we had that additional cover crop mix. That was a really good one. Here's one we got 2 or 3 times actually now. It says we want an entire enterprise budget as opposed to partial budget analysis. Farmers say to us, I can't make a decision based on a partial budget because I can't hold everything. When I change one thing, especially something in cover cropping, it changes everything else. So they want that. And another one to alter was to alter the way fruit is defined as marketable or culled. Turns out growers, especially those who do direct marketing, may not be using our criteria. Next, please. And I want to just end with this comment on think tanks because I think there's been some confusion. Unlike the grower assessments, the purpose of those is to have a body of people who look to the future. So it's very appropriate for this project because the whole idea of the farmer think tanks is that they're going to think about what we need to do after this project to expand, extend, and build on it. So our think tanks researchers provide synthesis about their findings from one or more specific components can be all that. There is a facilitated discussion, and the end output is identify priorities for further research and outreach on this project or in follow-on projects. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mickie. That was wonderful. And it does look like Heather's back on. So I'm hoping we'll have a session with Heather still, or no, Heather? Where are we at?
In the chat box, she says, I am back.
Yeah, I thought she was. Maybe it's by our phone number instead, Ethan. I don't see. Is it 1-802? It's 802, I bet. I just unmuted her.
Oh, whoops. Oh, I'm unmuted.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Heather, just to give you a quick, hopefully we can wrap this up in like 5-6 minutes so that I can wrap up the day and knowing that we're not going to get a lot of question and answer, but okay.
Yeah. Well, who knows? I may just be gone in a second, in a flash. So again, this is Heather Darby coming in live from right on the Canadian border. And I think sometimes they just totally shut me down. It's like a vortex up here. So I started talking about extension, and thank you, Mickie, for jumping on and filling in. And yeah, just to take the 5 minutes, because, I think everybody knows extension is thoroughly integrated into almost every single objective that we have. And plus it has its own objective, which is to extend to farmers through an iterative research, design, and assessment process all of the information we have gained, the research. Our extension group is there to help connect everyone with the farming community and also the agricultural community at large. And that is occurring, again, integrated within all of the different projects, the on-farm research, these farmer-driven exchanges, the think tanks, vetting and assisting with the decision support tools. And then, of course, the cover crop councils and the 3 cover crop councils that are working hard to provide outreach and education to the broader agricultural community. We are certainly going to produce some very extension-specific materials like standard fact sheets and some videos and probably some podcasts. But that won't come until later in the project once we have some information developed that we want to share through the different common experiments. And so really our work has yet to start, but we've made it clear to the various folks that are working in the other objectives that extension is here and we're ready to do our job as we're needed. One last note, and then I'll get off the line. I had said before, if you are in extension and you want to be included in our discussions, again, we've only had one, please let me know and we'll kind of connect you with that. We are trying to develop an evaluation framework. So essentially anyone that is doing extension work related to this project, you will have a place to account for that. So we need to keep track of the number of farms and agricultural community that we're interacting with. And, if you're an extension, you're used to this, you're used to reporting. And we are working right now with Kevin Lamb to set up that reporting template, trying to make it as easy and painless as possible. So that will be coming out and shared with everyone relatively soon as well. So thank you for everyone's hard work. And again, the extension group is excited to be engaged with everyone. And thanks. So I'll wrap it up, Steve.